Before I kick off today, I'd like to give a shout out to F. Harron95 in the United States, who recently left us a review on Apple Podcasts titled My Wedding Planning BFF. Oh, it's not dramatic to tell you that these few sentences literally made my week, and I just wanted to reach back out to tell you that, F. Harron95. They wrote, I credit Unbridely with much of the success we had on our wedding day. Camille is so honest and never afraid to talk about hard topics. She literally felt like a best friend, helping us stay focused and do our best with planning. I love this show and highly recommend it. Smiley face. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time to type a review. You know, it helps to motivate me too, because like all jobs, especially those that you don't get paid for, there are some days when the energy and motivation to keep showing up and doing my best work just isn't there. I'm absolutely human and very flawed. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It meant the world. F. Harron95. So getting back on track to today's super juicy episode topic, and I have a question for you. When you're at the supermarket and you're shopping for canned tomatoes, stick with me here. The size of the can, the contents of the can, they're all pretty much the same, right? So are you like me and look for the cheapest or lowest cost per 100 grams? As in, the very best value, knowing that there's very little difference between the products. Given the cost of living at the moment, and maybe with the origins of the canned tomatoes aside, I'd guess yes. But what about when you're looking to book a wedding vendor to provide a product or service for your wedding? What's your approach like then? Do you prioritise finding the absolute lowest price? And if you do, I don't think you'd be shocked to learn, but certainly surprised and potentially not even aware of what you're trading to get that very best cost alone. Because we all know the well-worn adage, you get what you pay for. But let me throw another one in there. It's like comparing apples with oranges. Because a wedding vendor who's charging well below the market average for what they do or what they supply is completely different from one that knows their worth, their costs, and what it takes to be in business for longer than a year or two. It's possible, and in my research for this episode and experience over the past 16 plus years, highly likely that your savings will come at the expense of quality, reliability, and perhaps even your peace of mind. So today we're exploring the hidden costs of booking the cheapest options for your wedding and how to strike a balance between budget and having the beautiful wedding you expect and deserve. We're talking about the risks of booking the cheapest vendors, sharing real-world stories and expert insights from the wedding industry, including some candid comments from wedding vendors in the Unbridely Suppliers Facebook group. Because there are 7 critical things you need to know and consider about booking wedding vendors who are charging well below the market average, and you need to know how to avoid costly mistakes. Let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille, and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. So let's start with why cheap vendors are so tempting. Weddings can be expensive, sometimes overwhelmingly so. And when you're looking at your budget and you're trying to make everything fit, finding a vendor who charges significantly less than others in the market can feel like you have hit the jackpot. Maybe it's a photographer offering half the price of others that you've looked at, or a florist promising stunning arrangements for a fraction of what you'd expect to pay. It's hard not to feel like you've scored a massive win. And sometimes the truth is you absolutely have. There are unicorns out there, Vendors who are just starting out and charging below market rates because they're starting out, because they're building their portfolio or just trying to get a few runs on the board. These vendors can be incredibly talented, brimming with fresh ideas, perspective, and enthusiasm, and they may go above and beyond to prove themselves. They could be the next big thing, but equally, they could also decide that their day job in finance was way less stressful and decide not to fulfill your contract just 4 months before your wedding date. And if you listen until the end, I'll share how I would handle a wedding vendor who seems a little too good to be true and is just starting out. Now, I don't mean to scare you, but I want to give you all the facts and the things that you might not be privy to or even think about when you're planning your big day. The good news is that if you do your due diligence, that's really hard to say, check reviews, look at their work, and have open conversations, you might find someone amazing who's just waiting for their big break. Number one, value means more than just price. So the general consensus in the Unbridled Suppliers Facebook group was that value isn't just about the lowest price, and you know this. It's all about the combination of experience, professionalism, quality, and peace of mind. And sometimes paying a bit more means less stress. Sometimes it means better service and a smoother wedding day. It's about being both comfortable and confident that a wedding vendor can deliver the product or experience that you want. And on top of that, the experience of working with them should feel good. And if it doesn't feel good, then find another vendor, find another supplier who gives you that feeling, because you're only doing this once, right? That's why we had to put this at the very top of the list. That is number one. Number two, you often, not always, there are always exceptions, but you often get what you pay for. When it comes to wedding vendors, price often reflects experience, expertise, and the ability to handle the unexpected. Several vendors in the Unbridled Suppliers Facebook group discussion pointed out that vendors charging rock bottom prices may lack the experience or resources to develop consistently high quality work, and they may not have the backup plans. You know, if they're unable to attend due to personal reasons like illness, for example, or the professionalism needed if things go wrong. Lower prices can also mean cutting corners on supplies like food or flowers, for example. Adrian, the event manager at Beach Road Wines in McLaren Vale, beautiful, beautiful wedding venue, made mention of the quantity of food because she said, we all love a cocktail or food truck wedding, but one food truck does not satisfy 100 intoxicated individuals because you need 2 to 3 to cover it. Amazing florist Carolyn from Sweet Nothings Flowers said that if a florist is charging way below average, they probably aren't full-time, or maybe they're new, but either way, you're not getting the same level of experience and expertise as another more established florist. And this might lead to a rougher experience in the lead up. And I think what she means by that is the vendor probably doesn't know exactly what they're doing, exactly when they should get in touch with you for information, for the correct timings, for ordering things, etc. So a rougher experience is what she said, with perhaps last-minute questions or changes that you wouldn't get from a professional. And it's also pretty likely that they're not giving the same quality and abundance of flowers as someone charging closer to the norm. You get what you pay for. Photographer Andrea Laub mentioned that they potentially have no backup equipment, are underinsured, or worst case, not insured at all, which is fine when everything goes right. It's not so great when something goes wrong. Celebrant Annie Summerford Williams from Marry Me Annie also mentioned that there's the potential, if something happens, that they may not have a network of support to call on and might let you down. Number 3, quality and reliability may suffer. So, we're touching a bit on these points as we go, but several comments in the Facebook thread referenced issues with low budget vendors not turning up, and it is a thing, not turning up, delivering subpar work, or failing to communicate well or in a timely manner. So this is short for they don't return your emails or your calls. And as your wedding day nears, you are left wondering if they're going to show up at all. When price is the only factor, you risk ending up with someone who can't deliver the quality or reliability you need for what is probably one of the most important occasions of your life. Celebrant Jessica Mader brought up some points that are specific to your ceremony to look out for, such as a celebrant who's charging well below the market average. They might not have quality equipment, which is especially important when you think of your PA and microphone that you need to actually have your guests hear your ceremony. Very important. Your ceremony might also be not as personalised as you want. What they wear may not be professional or formal enough for your vibe, for what you're going for. And planner, stylist Kelly from the Found Collective echoed Jessica's thoughts. And she said the lack of quality and experience with the vendors who don't charge very much, it can mean there are repercussions, that your wedding planning experience and day isn't as seamless as it could be. Things like attention to detail could be lacking. And Kelly encourages couples to definitely read reviews and have a look at those reviews that aren't 5 stars, and definitely jump on a call with these vendors to gauge an understanding of their experience. Kelly said that she's seen planner/stylists charging significantly less than the market average and thinks that they must not realise that they're making a huge loss, or simply don't put in as much time or care into the job as they should be. Number 4, low prices can signal inexperience or unsustainable business practices, which Kelly was just touching on there. So many vendors who charge less than the market average are new to the industry and are getting a few runs on the board. We understand everyone starts somewhere. And while this can mean fresh ideas and enthusiasm, it may mean that they're still figuring things out, sometimes at your expense. As highlighted in the group, low pricing can be a sign that a vendor isn't covering their costs or hasn't factored in the true value of their time and service, which can lead to burnout or cutting corners. And when this is done for a sustained period of time, businesses can and do shut down. Iconic celebrant and celebrant trainer and just oracle of wedding ceremonies here in Australia, Sarah Aird, said that they might go out of business before the wedding rolls around because they're unable to keep pace with their expenses, which of course is worst case scenario. It's something smart to keep in mind when you see something that is so well below the other quotes that you've gotten. When it looks too good to be true, as the old saying goes, it probably is. Did you know that most newlyweds spend up to 8 hours of their precious time working through changing their last name after they get married? This is where easy name change comes in. Their kits provide you with a sort of shopping list of businesses, companies and government departments where you simply pick which ones you need to notify. They then send you detailed instructions on how to go about the name change process because every business is different, and this saves you hours of calling around, waiting on hold, sending emails, waiting for a response, and then remembering to follow up when you don't hear back from them. Easy name change kits also provide ready-to-send forms, letters and emails, so you just attach your marriage certificate to them and you're done. Starting at $39, the value and time you get back is a no-brainer. For more help on changing your name after you get married, there is an excellent blog post on the Unbridely website, and I'll put a link in the show notes for you. Plus, Unbridely podcast listeners get a $6 discount on their name change kits by using the code Unbridely6. That's UNBRIDELY 6, the number 6. And this is valid until the end of 2025. Get your easy name change kit so you can move on to the fun parts of being grown-ups together, like holidays, getting a dog, building a house, herb gardens. Number 5, booking far in advance at low rates is a very special type of gamble. Some low-budget vendors book weddings 12 to 24 months in advance, a year to 2 years, to fill their calendars, which is awesome. They get, those booking fees in nice and early. But the danger here is that the fee that seems worth it to them now may not motivate them, may not be enough when your wedding day finally arrives. Because if a better paying gig, a better paying job comes up, a special family holiday, a big event, if that comes up in the meantime, there is the risk that they may deprioritize your wedding or even cancel. Number 6, communication and contracts are crucial. And I say this all the time, and I know, I bang on about it. But sometimes these communications, the contracts, the terms and conditions that you both agree to and sign are sometimes all that keeps your wedding on track. If you're considering a low budget vendor, very clear communication from the start and a thorough contract and payment of a booking fee should be non-negotiable. Make sure the expectations, the deliverables, and cancellation policies are spelled out in writing and signed. And as the Facebook discussion highlighted, vague agreements and poor communication are common pain points with budget vendors and can leave couples in the lurch or stressing when they really should be enjoying each other, their celebration, and their guests' company. It is a red flag when you don't get answers from questions within a reasonable time frame. And number 7, there are unicorns. Absolutely. There are these vendors who are wildly talented, who have just found their calling. They're starting out and they might be a little bit cheaper than the other quotes that you've gotten for their particular skill, their service, their product. But I want you to know, because this is the truth, they are very rare. Some talented, passionate newcomers offer great value as they build their portfolios. But as many vendors in the group noted, these unicorns are not skipping around in paddocks. These unicorns are very rare, and booking them is a gamble still. You need to weigh the risk and do your homework, ask for some references, review their work or portfolio for photographers, and with photographers in particular, ask to see a full wedding shoot from start to finish, not just the highlights, the best 1 or 2 photos from a wedding. You want to see the entire day, an example of it, from when they rock up for perhaps prep or something like that to when there's a send-off at night. You want to see sustained quality throughout the day. And as with number 6, make sure you have a solid contract in place, because as beautiful as unicorns are, they are rare and they do need to be held accountable as well. They need to be reminded of their responsibilities and what they've promised to you at that particular price point. And in addition, if you decide to take a chance on a unicorn, go in with realistic expectations. Understand that while they may deliver amazing results, there's also a risk that their lack of experience, peer support, or changing priorities could still leave you feeling disappointed. And my best advice for booking a unicorn would be that if you want to work with someone new but promising, make sure you've got experienced professionals handling the other big critical roles in your wedding, like, I think very important, planning or photography, because that's what you take away with you, right? For the rest of your days, you need those beautiful photos that you're really happy with. And in those areas, the important critical roles, mistakes can have a massive impact on your day and your memories forever. So if you save on a unicorn with one particular aspect, make sure you invest in someone who really has the goods in the other pillars, if you like, of your wedding. That way, even if something goes wrong with one vendor, you've got others who can step in and help to keep things on track. So just to recap, 7 cheap wedding vendor facts to consider to avoid disappointment. Number 1, value means more than just price. Number 2, you often get what you pay for. Number 3, knowing that the quality of the product or service and or reliability may suffer. Number 4, low prices can signal inexperience or unsustainable business practices. 5, booking far in advance at low rates is a special type of gamble. There is that risk versus reward that you need to have a look at. Number 6, good consistent communication, paying a booking fee and a contract. They're all essential in booking a cheap wedding vendor. And number 7, there are unicorns, but they're rare. And you need to do your due diligence and protect yourself as best you can with that clear, consistent communication, a booking fee payment, good contract, and make sure you just check off everything you possibly can. And just a few final thoughts. At the end of the day, it's about finding that balance between saving money and investing in people who will make your vision come to life in the way that you want them to. While it's very, very tempting to go for the most inexpensive, the cheapest option, remember that price isn't everything. Experience, reliability, and quality are worth paying for in things that you value. And sometimes spending a little more upfront can save you from stress and disappointment later. So before you book that bargain vendor, or any vendor, of course, take the time to ask questions, read the reviews, and remember, have a look at the 1, 2, 3, 4-star reviews. See how they react under pressure and think about what matters most to you on your wedding day. Because when it's all said and done, this is so much more than just one day. It's about creating memories that will last a lifetime. So obviously, I've heard a lot of stories throughout the time I've been in weddings. There are some that have been first-hand experience. I've seen vendors let people down, and some I've read about in Facebook groups. Others have been told to me by my vendor colleagues, but I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know whether you've had an experience of someone you've booked in who you had very high hopes for, who let you down, or, and this would be on the unicorn side of the fence, whether you book someone who is up and coming, who didn't have the experience, but who had the passion and the drive and the enthusiasm, and how well it's worked out. I'd love to know about that too. So you can DM me on Instagram @unbridely and chat with you real soon. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.